This isn't just gossip. This is the kind of whisper that crawls out of the shadows, kicks down the palace doors, and dares the truth to come outside. Because when your own blood starts hinting that the fairy tale was edited, the timelines were polished, and the past was sealed shut for a reason, the world doesn't just listen, it leans in.
This would come out. So apparently, according to other journalists, we found out that there were a lot of porcupines probably told to the royals and even to Harry when they met her, and in order to cover up.
Many people doubt Meghan has long been a mother following her attendance at Northwestern University, and the couple got married after having a child when Meghan was almost 20. Let that sink in. Doubt, motherhood, college years. Marriage before the story we were sold even begins. This isn't some random internet troll tossing mud. This is the crack that appears when a perfectly framed portrait slips just 1 inch off the wall. Because for years, the narrative was clean, aspirational, almost cinematic. Bright lights, smart girl, actress, activist, princess, no loose ends, no complications, no inconvenient chapters. But real lives don't work like that. And when people start asking questions that don't have neat answers, panic doesn't scream, it goes silent.
What we said, everything I said in the beginning was favorable. Nobody printed that. And when I said nothing, they created stories. And it was really just...
Given her appearance, Noel does share some similarities with Joe and Meghan, and she's even more like Meghan. Similarity. That word is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Because once the internet smells resemblance, it doesn't stop at curiosity. It spirals. Faces are compared. Smiles are freeze-framed. Old photos are dragged out of digital graves. Suddenly, family likeness becomes a courtroom and everyone thinks they're the jury. And then, right when you think this is all just online noise, the tone shifts.
She's reinvented herself so many times throughout the last 44 years.
Let's be real for a second. If royal hypocrisy was an Olympic event, Meghan Markle wouldn't just be on the podium. She'd have more gold hanging around her neck than Michael Phelps at the peak of his career. It's a bold claim, I know, but every time we hear another lecture on authenticity or finding your truth from the Montecito mansion, you can practically hear the collective click of the world checking their Wi-Fi. It's like, did she really just say that or did the audio glitch? But here's the thing, there's a plot twist brewing that even the most expensive PR teams in London and LA didn't see coming. That's the moment the mask slips. Because when someone builds an empire on my truth, the most dangerous thing in the world becomes the actual truth. And that's when Samantha Markle steps into the frame, not shouting, not flailing, not begging for attention. She whispers.
I wrote to the state of California birth records office. I wrote to them and I said, I don't have documentation. All I have is this data. They conducted a search with finding if a Rachel Meghan Markle had given birth in the state of California, if she has any other children. You'll be surprised to see what they gave me. They can't find the child, Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor, but they did tell me that a Miss Rachel Meghan Markle gave birth to a child in 1997. They can't disclose the details because those were sealed. And look at the date these documents were sealed.
Samantha Markle, Meghan's half-sister and longtime thorn in her side, just dropped a massive hint. And it's not just another "my sister is mean" tweet. This is something that makes the carefully filtered Pinterest perfect life Meghan's been selling look like a deleted scene from a royal edition of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Deleted scene, that's the phrase. Because this wasn't rage, this wasn't jealousy. This was controlled, calculated, almost surgical. Samantha didn't accuse, she implied. An implication is far more lethal, but there were so many of them. And why? It would have been so easy to be honest about who she is. Exactly. Why not just say it? Why not own it? Because once you admit one crack, people start looking for the others. And suddenly, the fairy tale starts looking less like a glass slipper and more like a carefully edited screenplay. For years, the public was fed the modern Cinderella storyline. The misunderstood woman, the cruel press, the brave escape, the righteous reinvention. It was emotional, it was compelling, it was profitable. And then the bomb drops. She's reinvented herself so many times throughout the last 44 years. Reinvented. That word again. Reinvention is glamorous until someone asks what you were running from. We're talking whispers of a secret 30-year-old daughter. We're talking Dina questions that nobody, and I mean nobody, at the palace wants to touch with a 10F pole. This is where the air gets heavy, because Dina isn't gossip. Dina is science. Dina doesn't care about branding, PR teams, or Montecito speeches. And when that word enters the conversation, suddenly everyone's lawyers sit up straighter. Now, let's be clear, there's no framed certificate slapped on the table yet. No dramatic courtroom reveal, but when Samantha speaks, it's never accidental. This wasn't a meltdown, this was a warning shot. I wrote to the state of California Birth Records Office. I wrote to them and I said, I don't have documentation. All I have is this data. Data. Not drama. Data. They conducted a search with finding if a Rachel Meghan Markle had given birth in the state of California, if she has any other children. And here's where people started dropping their phones. You'll be surprised to see what they gave me. They can't find the child Lily Diana Mountbatten Windsor, but they did tell me that a Miss Rachel Meghan Markle gave birth to a child in 1997. Read that again. Because that date doesn't just raise eyebrows, it detonates timelines. They can't disclose the details because those were sealed, and look at the date these documents were sealed. Sealed. Not lost. Not missing. Sealed. And sealed records don't scream innocence. They scream control. To understand why people are spiraling now, you have to rewind. She was a caddy for all of my celebrities. A random interview. A casual setting. Nothing explosive. Until it was. Picture this. Actress Paula Trickey is doing an interview. It's casual, low stakes. And then, like it was nothing, oh Meghan. She'd already been married and she already had a child. Silence. No dramatic music. No gasp. Just a sentence that aged like a time bomb. Everything you're not supposed to be multi-thnick, and she's been married. She's already has a kid from someone. Back in 2019, nobody cared. Why would they? The PR machine was roaring, Netflix deals were cooking, Oprah soundbites were gospel. Anything that didn't fit the princess mold was swept away. But time has a funny way of sharpening memories. Because once Samantha started hinting that there were stories buried deep, people went back. They dug. And that throwaway line suddenly looked like a breadcrumb. I'll tell you why. What she told the royal family, what she told Harry wouldn't have jived, wouldn't have been consistent with the truth. And there it is. The quiet part out loud. Because lies don't collapse from the outside. They collapse when the timelines don't match on the inside. And when blood relatives start talking like narrators in a true crime documentary, the world stops scrolling. Samantha didn't waive receipts. She didn't need to. She planted the idea. And the internet did the rest. I'm going to quote Tom Bauer by saying, he said, look, we all laughed at Samantha, and she was right. And everything she said has come true. Once that sentence hit, it was over. The mood changed. The laughter died. The digging began. Missing months. Awkward pauses. Sealed documents. Strategic silence. And silence in a scandal like this is deafening. The theory took shape slowly, then all at once. Somewhere out there, possibly, someone shares Dina that doesn't fit the story we were told. No photos, no interviews, just gaps. And gaps are where suspicion lives. Why still records years later? Why edit timelines? Why let distractions flourish while the core question stays unanswered? Because if this is fake, disproving it would be easy. And yet, nothing. The internet doesn't smell smoke anymore. It smells fire. And when it builds a conspiracy yacht, everyone gets invited on board. And this is only the beginning. Good. Buckle up, because this is where the story stops flirting with chaos and dives straight into it. The internet didn't just chew on the theory, it devoured it. Reddit threads turned into war rooms. TikTok sleuths started behaving like unpaid intelligence analysts. Every interview Meghan ever gave was suddenly rewatched with fresh suspicion. Every pause, every smile, every sentence that sounded a little too rehearsed. Because once the question is planted, what aren't you telling us? Everything else becomes evidence. And that's when a name kept surfacing again and again, like a ghost that refused to stay buried. Joseph Giuliana. Meghan was researching the prince online and found out that the prince is now duped, so I can now go ahead and marry him. At that stage, Meghan contacted Joe, told him that, look, if you open your mouth, I'm going to sue you. For a while, Jay was the internet's favorite missing puzzle piece. The alleged first husband, the supposed secret marriage, the imagined father of the mystery child. Forums exploded, YouTube thumbnails screamed, people dragged out grainy photos from the early 2000s like they were ancient artifacts. It was messy. It was loud, it was obsessive, and then it started falling apart. Because for all the noise, there was no marriage license, no verified witnesses, no friend who came forward saying, yeah, I was there. The timelines didn't line up. The story had holes you could drive a royal carriage through, and that's when the mood shifted again. Because if Joe Giuliano wasn't the answer, then why was he everywhere? It felt convenient. Too convenient. Like a shiny object tossed into the room to keep everyone staring in the wrong direction. A distraction. A smokescreen. Because while the internet was chasing a phantom groom, no one was asking the more uncomfortable question. What if the truth wasn't outside the family at all? A lot of people are saying, oh, this is from her first boyfriend. That was that, but it's not him. Apparently it was the cousin. It's pretty shocking, isn't it? And just like that, the temperature dropped. Because this theory didn't feel like clickbait. It felt unsettling. The idea that the secret wasn't hidden in some distant corner of California, but sitting right there in the family tree, disguised by labels and silence. Enter Sean Johnson. People started freeze-framing home videos, hunting for familiar smiles, familiar noses, familiar gestures in places they didn't expect. Family resemblance became the new Dina test. And every time someone asked for clarity, there was silence. Not denial, not correction. Silence. And silence is where imagination runs wild. Just when the frenzy threatened to burn itself out, something new appeared. A letter, not an email, not a tweet. A letter. Physical. Allegedly connected to Samantha Markle. Screenshots exploded across social media. Claims swirled. Mentions of tests. Of truth. Of a family matter that was never resolved. The authenticity was debated. The handwriting dissected. The timing, though? Perfect. It dropped right as Meghan was trying to pivot back into soft-focused lifestyle branding. Jam jars, calm smiles, curated domestic bliss. And suddenly, nobody cared about strawberries anymore. They cared about Dina. Silence everybody and just produce a Dina sample. That sentence echoed everywhere. And Samantha? She didn't confirm the letter. She didn't deny it either. She just let it sit there, like a loaded weapon on the table. In this world, that means one thing: watch what happens next. Because behind the scenes, silence isn't calm. It's panic wearing a tailored suit. It's crisis meetings. It's lawyers whispering. It's PR teams calculating whether denying something might make it worse. And the public noticed something else that felt off. One thing is curious. He does mention that she looked pregnant in the article, but he says that's me standing with her, but he doesn't deny it. That's what drove people insane. Not what was said, but what wasn't said. No flat denial, no clear statement. Just carefully worded avoidance. And avoidance is like blood in the water. Most scandals die fast. 1 week you're trending, the next week forgotten. But this one? It refuses to die. Every time it gets buried, someone digs it back up. Because it hits at the core of Meghan's brand. Control. Everything about her public image is polished, curated, scripted. And when something threatens the control, people don't just get curious, they get obsessed. Samantha understands this better than anyone. She doesn't need to scream. She doesn't need to drop everything at once. One nudge, one implication, one pause, and the algorithm does the rest. The media plays shocked while cashing in. Fans defend harder, which fuels engagement. Critics sharpen their knives. And the silence continues, because here's the uncomfortable truth. The Dina secret might never be proven. It might not even exist. But the mystery is real, and mystery is powerful. Mystery is profitable. Mystery keeps people watching. Talk to Andrew Morton. Talk to Tom Bauer. Every biographer says the same thing. The years before Prince Harry are a fog. Hard to pin down. Hard to verify. And when history is blurry, people start filling in the gaps themselves. So where does that leave us? Maybe the truth isn't hidden. Maybe it's just waiting for the right moment, waiting for the pressure to build high enough that something finally cracks. Because in this family, silence isn't peace, it's tension. And tension always snaps eventually. People aren't asking if there's a secret anymore. They're asking when it comes out. And if you think this was wild, what's coming next makes this look like a warm-up act. Because the other side of the palace, it's shaking too. And once those doors start creaking open, nobody looks away.